pirates. He watches as the enormous ship takes off over him, soaring higher and higher into the sky and making him feel so very, very small. Beck lets out a low whistle that goes higher as the ship pulls away from the world, no visible thrust to be seen, as if it were just falling in the opposite direction. It takes minutes at most for it to completely disappear, and he's left with his thoughts again. Thoughts that dragged back to that thrice-damned message from Earth. The dull throb in the back of his neck and the dozens of personal problems. He pushes them away. Bitching that mommy and daddy don't understand is what teenagers do, and he left that brat behind in training. He activates the archive stored in the back of his neck. The implant is the size of his thumbnail and holds the complete medical readout of thousands of species, as well as step-by-step guides on how to perform life-saving operations and advanced surgical techniques. The rest of the guys, being glorious assholes, had noted that this meant he might finally find that long-rumored organ, the clitoris. They had all been a little drunk at the time, but that was kind of par for the course on a boys' night. Still, big fuck-off ship heading for the major laneways and a charity organization that sends escaped slaves to safe havens and homes. Big feather in the cap of Vuxa and by proxy another in the Undaunteds. We're a big force of good in the galaxy. Rah-rah humanity and all that jazz. Beck was trying to sort out the issue of the increasing value this planet had. The tendency to loot any nearby hostile down to the bulkheads and then take the bulkheads too was quickly gorging the planet in value, making it a more and more tempting target. Perhaps even tempting enough for galactic patrols to extend their services out to this length, which would alter the part of the galaxy that Vuxa is categorized as. But as such a place grows safer, it actually doesn't. It just shifts what kind of danger there is. He stands up after a bit and cracks his neck. His mind goes back to the infuriating answer from Earth he had gotten, and his fists clench. His mother was always a cunt, but damn did the bitch show her true colors when he couldn't scream back at her. Figures that a bitch with poison dripping off her teeth would hate snakes. The competition must be a bitch. He grumbles to himself before giving himself a light slap in the jaw. All right, enough of that. You've bitched it out. You've moped. There's work to do. He reaches the edge of the building and mantles down the pipe. It helps sort his head a little more. The sensation of the metal under his fingers and that slight scent of the city, so very different from the country, he focuses on those things rather than his own issues. His communicator goes off when he's still 3 stories off the ground. Beck here, he answers, hanging off the building with one hand like a climbing ape. Where are you? We're about to start basic weapons training and I'd like you around in case someone does a stupid, Miles says, and Beck blinks. That's today? Sorry, sir. I'll be at the training camp shortly. Something's wrong. What is it? Miles asks, and Beck doesn't answer for a moment. I stumbled on the answer I got from home again. Not everyone is getting a happy answer from home. Duh. That doesn't mean I'm content with such a miserable result. You could try talking soldier, Miles advises him. What's there to talk about? My mother's a first-class raging bitch, racist to the point that signing up for the Dauntless pissed her off, and the fact that I've been fucking non-Egyptian, let alone non-human, women pisses her off to the level that the whole fucking message is about 20 minutes of her ranting how I've brought shame to the family, tainted the line, will be rejected from heaven, and blah, blah, blah. You know, we can send back answers, snappy ones. Miles replies and Beck snorts. I think leaving the impossible bitch on that dust ball in the most dangerous and undesired part of the galaxy is revenge enough. Beck replies, feeling better for having ranted a bit himself, and he stabilizes himself with Axiom before kicking off the building. He lands with scarcely a sound and little pressure on his knees. The tricks Franklin had been teaching are exotic, varied, and at times just plain weird, but they're all very, very useful. full kinetic energy dump into Axiom, sheathing your entire body, internal organs included, in a conversion field. End result lets a man drop from orbit and land without a sound and without a problem. It could also be used to stop speeding vehicles dead without damaging anything inside. The fact he could step out in front of a car and it would just stop was outright surreal. Seeing that red-coated asshole outright catch a fighter without hurting the pilot, without hurting himself, or even scuffing the paint had been the point several guys had just poured out their drinks for the day. It was clear at that point that reality was out to lunch, and getting drunk on top of it would not help. The day had gotten no less surreal when he started to mess with stone and metal like fucking Play-Doh, and then got really going. Back in the here and now, though, Beck quickly gets to his own personal air car and takes off easily enough. He punches in the coordinates and starts a leisurely flight over the countryside. It takes less than a half hour to spot things in the distance. When out of cities, he had developed the habit of flying while leaning out the window. It was hell on the eyes until he whipped out the sunglasses, but that just made it cooler to have aviators on while blasting metal. Made the flame job on his car feel earned. He spots an entire column of men, a few hundred no less, all marching or slithering or in some cases, oozing along after Miles as he carries what looks like a freaking coffin on his back. That the man has a spring in his step is a tribute to both how much bullshit Axiom is and how balls to the walls insane the training to be on the Dauntless was. Beck spots the firing range they're heading to and sets his car down easily. He pops the trunk and sorts through the emergency supplies he always had on him, a habit born of seeing so many people outright break bones or rip themselves open in training. He'd had the wonderful luck of being the only graduate from an entire squad that had otherwise been universally hospitalized after training. He never liked being far away from fresh bandages and painkillers after that. Even if the painkillers were powerful enough to just straight up kill most things in the galaxy. Although that would take away the pain. He then starts having some music play from his communicator as he waits for the crew to catch up. 20 minutes. That's awful timing. He had been only about 2 kilometers away. All right, keep pace, you little pukes. This is just the start, the sampler. Things don't get easier from here. They get harder. And if you don't want to snap like a dried twig, you'll get stronger and stronger until it becomes easier. Miles bellows out as he leads the recruits into the area. Now, Medic Beck Ali here will make sure that you don't accidentally kill yourself in this last part. That's right, kiddos. The obstacle course, the miles of running and endless gear checks was the safe bits. Now we need a doctor to keep you alive. There are a lot of nervous looks sent Beck's way, and to be nice, he turns off the music. They don't need to understand the lyrics to know that a song extolling endless combat and dying on the field of battle isn't a happy one. Good, now, look down that field. Miles orders everyone and Beck follows the lead as well. It was clear the field was a firing range. It has numerous sandbags with boards indicating distance leaning against them. There were also metal discs laying among the grass. They look like industrial-scale hollow projectors, the sort of thing you get for a concert to have the band tower over the crowd in real time. "We will be having ourselves a little turkey shoot," Miles exclaims as he shucks off the massive container on his back, and it unfolds into a wall that then opens to reveal rack after rack of weaponry. Beck lets out a little whistle of appreciation. Miles had been carrying an entire armory for the training run. Damn. Jeebus Miles, the hell is that thing? Beck asks the sniper and gets a grin. Newest bit of Axiom tech, still in the prototype stages. The eventual goal is to get these monsters down to the size of a cigarette case. Miles answers him before turning back to the recruits. All right, you little pukes, form up by unit. Go, go, go. They divide themselves into 10 groups of 20. For all that thousands of men wanted to stay on Vuxa, only about 200 signed up for combat training. Unit A, arm yourselves! Miles barks out his order, and the first group rushes up to the armory the sniper had carried and quickly grab as many guns as they can. Of particular note, now that Beck is scanning the crowds for someone possibly hiding an injury, is that there are a large number of unconventional races. They're all male, or at least acting male, and many of them just aren't human-shaped. This is going to make things difficult, especially with the slobes in the crowd. Beck didn't even know they could be male. Or maybe they're not. The race are basically oversized amoeba with human-level intelligence. One of the slobes, bright red and with a distinct teenage male configuration to his body, starts fumbling with his rifle. Beck immediately calls up information from his implanted archive and scans through it. Most of the gunk is vestigial. No, that's a typo. But the slobe is considered unharmed if damage to the slime alone is accomplished. The actual slobe and the summation of its vital organs is within the sphere embedded within it. This one is carrying his in his torso, roughly at the level of his heart. The sheer transparency of the red slime lets it easily be seen. That's not a good sign. The orb should be barely visible through the slime, not clearly. The red Jello kid isn't bad with his rifle handling, but every squeeze of the trigger sends clearly uncomfortable shockwaves through his entire body. His only physiological hardpoint is the ball that is his every vital organ, and with the gunk not offering much resistance, the kid seems to be actively hurting himself, or at least making himself very uncomfortable. The kid isn't even halfway through his magazine before he has to outright stop and nearly collapses in on himself. Beck starts browsing more and more. Apparently, repeated vibrations on the core can make these beings dizzy. There is an addendum that older, more experienced slobes can and do alter the chemistry of their gel bodies to get around this, but that begins on average at the 2-century mark. With the way this one is acting, he's seen at most 2 decades, if that. "All right, doctor's orders. You, red kid, over here with me," Beck calls out over the weapons fire. You heard him recruit speak with the doctor. Miles backs him up when the kid looks to him. There's the singularly odd visual of a dejected slime boy oozing over to stand in front of Beck, who sighs and crouches to be eye level with him. "How old are you, kid?" he asks. "What's that have to with anything?" "We're wondering if you'll be part of the pimp brigade. I need to know your physiological and psychological development level, of course." Beck jokes a bit and the kid backs up. "How old are you?" He says, and Beck ratchets down his age estimate. 1.5 decades, he asks, and the boy flinches. "Lower?" The dejected look speaks volumes. "Oh boy. Kid, you should be with a foster family, if not your birth family, not signing up for the army." "But The kid trails off. "What's your name?" Beck asks. He's going to have to be nicer, as the form seems to all but implode on itself. His estimation for the boy's age goes down again. Is he even 10 years old? I never got one," he says. And Beck's mind flatlines for a moment as he tries to process the sheer size of the psychological hell that he has to deal with. He's going to need professional help. "Why not?" Beck asks, and the kid looks nervous. Beck crouches down to be closer to his collapsed level. At this stage, the slime has condensed to the point that it's a healthy opacity. The slow boy tries before failing. Whatever this is, it's deep, and it's not the kind of medicine Beck practices by a long shot. He suppresses the need for a few biting comments as he puts his hand on the kid's shoulder for comfort and starts a speed dial with his other hand. Thankfully, he knows some people that can find him a child psychologist in a hurry.